Jaya Shila Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Parahangsa Parivikashaya Statashi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki ISKCON founder Acharya BBD founder Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnu Pada Parahangsa Parivikashaya Statashi Shmat Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavran ki Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kund Radha Kund Giriraj Govardhan ki Brajbhumi Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Shri Navadip Mayapur Dham ki Purushottam Kshetra Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai ki Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi ki Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki Janitai Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Chaitanya Samnitya Namine Namami Bhakti Chaitanyam Prabhupada Anu Sevanam Shri Vrajadan Mahatman Pradashan Kripanavam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Samnitya Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachari Nidvishesha Shunyavadi Prasthadeshtari. Hare Krishna. I'm very happy to see you today. And I'm grateful for the opportunity I've been given to be able to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. And before I begin reading from the text, I would request all of you to please bless me, that I may be able to say something of sense and inspiration for you and for my own purification. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. So today we read from Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 25. Chapter is entitled Praise by Queen Kunti. Text 25. Vipadaḥ santu ta śaśvat Vipadaḥ santata śaśvat tatra jagat-guro tatra jagat-guro bhavato darśanam syād bhavato darśanam syād apunar bhava-darśanam apunar bhava-darśanam vipadaḥ santu ta śaśvat tatra jagat-guro bhavato darśanam syād apunar bhava-darśanam. Vaishnavas, apunaḥ bhava-darśanam vipadaḥ santu ta śaśvat tatra jagat-guro bhavato darśanam syāt apunar bhava-darśanam. Vaishnavis, vipadaḥ santu ta śaśvat tatra jagat-guro bhavato darśanam syāt apunar bhava-darśanam. Vipadaḥ santu ta śaśvat tatra jagat-guro bhavato darśanam syāt apunar bhava-darśanam. Vipadaḥ santu ta śaśvat tatra jagat-guro bhavato darśanam syāt apunar bhava-darśanam. Anybody else? Okay, word for word. Vipadaḥ, calamities. Santu, let there be. All. Śaśvat, again and again. Tatra, there. Tatra, and there. Jagat-guro, O Lord of the universe. Bhavatāḥ, your. Darśanaṁ, meeting. Yat, that which. Syāt, is. Apunar, not again. Bhava-darśanam, seeing repetition of birth and death. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. Please repeat responsibly. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Generally, the distressed, the needy, the intelligent, and the inquisitive who have performed some pious activities worship or begin to worship the Lord. Others who are thriving on misdeeds only, regardless of status, cannot approach the Supreme Lord due to being misled by the illusory energy. Therefore, for a pious person, if there is some calamity, there is no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing for liberation from birth and death. Therefore, even though they are so-called calamities, they are welcome because they give us an opportunity to remember the Lord, which means liberation. One who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are accepted as the most suitable boat for crossing the ocean of nescience, can achieve liberation as easily as one leaps over the holes made by the hoofs of a calf. Such persons are meant to reside in the abode of the Lord, and they have nothing to do with a place where there is danger in every step. This material world is certified by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita as a dangerous place full of calamities. Less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust those calamities without knowledge that the nature of this place is itself full of calamities. They have no information of the abode of the Lord, which is full of bliss and without trace of calamity. The duty of the sane person, therefore, is to be undisturbed by worldly calamities, which are sure to happen in all circumstances. Suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization, because that is the mission of human life. The spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. Therefore, the so-called calamities are called false. A man sees a tiger swallowing him in a dream, and he may cry for this calamity. Actually, there is no tiger and there is no suffering. It is simply a case of dreams. In the same way, all calamities of life are said to be dreams. If someone is lucky enough to get in contact with the Lord by devotional service, it is all gain. Contact with the Lord by any one of the 9 devotional services is always a forward step on the path going back to Godhead. We'll read the verse and purport again. Translation again. Vipadaḥ santu śaśvat tatra jagat-guro bhavato darśanaṁ syād apunar bhava-darśanam. Translation. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jire Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gatamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, just to put this verse in context, Queen Kunti is praying to Krishna as he is preparing to leave Hastinapur for Dwarka. And in a lecture on this verse, Srila Prabhupada spoke in Vrindavan, 5th of October 1974. Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna, he's speaking in the voice of Kunti Devi, Krishna, you did so much for us. Now that we have the throne and the kingdom, but you are going away. No, I don't want that. Let us experience danger. Don't go. I prefer to remain in vipadaḥ. When I see you again and again, then I advance in no more births and deaths. So vipadahs are defined in different places in Bhagavatam in different ways. Here Prabhupada is translating vipada as danger. Also in the verse 10th canto chapter 8 text 58, Padam vipadam natesham. In that verse, Prabhupada is, the translation in Purport is mentioning vipada as danger. In this verse, he is translated as calamity. So vipadas are sometimes defined as calamities and sometimes defined as dangers. And today, if we analyze the situation we see that the situation is full of vipadas. And how to deal with that in Krishna consciousness, we're going to discuss today. So looking at the purport, Prabhupada speaks about the 4 categories of people who are considered pious. That's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, text 16. Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukrito no jana atto jigyasa artati jnani cha bharata sabha. Krishna mentions, O best of the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for the absolute truth. Then Prabhupada describes another category of people, group of 4 people. He says there, others who are thriving on misdeeds only, regardless of status, cannot approach the Lord. So that's described in chapter 7, text 15, the verse before. Namam duskritano moda prapadyante naradama mayaya paritha jnana asuram bhava asritaha. Those miscreants are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. So what's the course of action for a pious person? Prabhupada explains here, if there is some calamity, there is no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Now in the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava, as described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is described as Krishnaika Sharanam, which means surrendered only to Krishna. So one of the offenses against chanting the holy names is to equate the names of Krishna with the names of the demigods. But Krishna is not. Krishna is the supreme of all supremes. Param Bhagavan, Swayam Bhagavan. So taking shelter of him exclusively. What does that entail? Prabhupada goes on to say, constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing for the liberation from birth and death. Now you see in chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, texts 5 and 6, there's a description of what one's mentality, it says attaining the absolute. That's the nature of that's the title of that chapter. So in that chapter 8, text 5 and 6, Krishna is explaining that one who thinks me at the time of death is sure to attain me, without fail. So if one remembers Krishna at the time of death, the result is liberation. Not impersonal liberation, which is rejected by Vaishnavas, but liberation from this material quagmire. So Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse and discusses it in a lecture given on Srimad Bhagavatam, this verse, in Los Angeles, 17th April 1973. So Srila Prabhupada says, these calamities are good if such calamities remind me of Krishna. Then they're very good. So it's not always that people who are in calamity remember Krishna. They may try to, take shelter of their own strength. Like Draupadi. Initially she was taking shelter of her own strength, trying to pull that sari from Dushashan. We see people taking shelter of their wealth. People taking shelter of their knowledge, wisdom, learning. People taking shelter of their aristocratic birth. People taking shelter of prestige, honor, all of these things. But in the next verse after this, these are all rejected by Kunti Devi, saying if people have these things, birth in proper aristocratic family, some wealth, some name and famous position, beauty, all these things are disqualifications, Prabhupada says in the purport, 1.8.26 Bhagavatam. So if you have calamities and you think of those things, it is unadvisable, because these are all what is called durashraya. In Nectar of Instruction, this described, durashraya means false shelter. Those people themselves will not endure. How can they protect you? They themselves are in the jaws of death, Bhagavatam explains. So how can you give shelter to others? So in yesterday's class, His Grace Rasamai Nityananda Prabhu mentioned that these calamities that the Pandavas are going were unending. Sometimes we are suffering and we get some respite. So we think, there is happiness. There is a nice example given by Srila Prabhupada. In the olden days, to torture somebody to get some truth out of him, to confess, they'll grab him by his hair and push his head under the water. He can't breathe, struggling for breath, he's going to die. So just before he dies, they'll pull his head out of the water and go, he takes a deep breath. And as soon as he finishes that breath, they get into the water. So for him, that breath is happiness. So Prabhupada explains, a mere absence of distress is not happiness. The mere absence of distress is not happiness. Happiness is something far beyond that. And that's explained in, that's experienced in Krishna consciousness, as I'll describe to you later. So the next part of the purport that I wish to describe is from the point where Prabhupada says, he's quoting the word from the 10th canto chapter 14, 10th canto chapter 14, text 58. So Prabhupada says in this purport that we read today, one who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, who has accepted the most suitable boat for crossing the ocean of nations, can achieve a liberation as easily as one leaps over the holes made by the hoofs of a calf. Such persons are meant to reside in the abode of the Lord, and they have nothing to do with the place where there is danger in every step. This is a quote from Bhagavatam 10.14.58. Prabhupada has paraphrased. And again this word is there, vipadaḥ, danger. What to speak of vipadaḥ? Padam padam vipadam natesham. At every step, which is true. We all are adults in this room, we know what it means. At every step in your life, as soon as you come to be aware what you're a child, you're innocent, you don't know. But as you become aware of what the world is, you say, wow, this is a dangerous place. Now fools might think, nah, you being too strong is not so dangerous, and they try to adjust and make it a nice place. But Krishna doesn't say that. Krishna says, dukkhalayam śaśvatam, dukkha alayam, place of misery, dukkha. And even if you think you're going to adjust and make that dukkha into sukha, which you cannot, but you can try and adjust. The entire material civilization is trying to do that, trying to change dukkha to sukha, and they're failing, but they're not giving up. Like a mad bulldog when he grabs somebody's hand, doesn't give up. Even if you think you can change the dukkha to sukha, it's aśaśvata. It's temporary. You can live to a ripe old age of 80s, 90s, 100s, but still you will die. If Brahma, who has a lifetime of 311 billion, 400 trillion years, 411 billion, 300, what's the number? I forget. Very long number. If he lives such a long period of time, he still dies. What to speak of us? Our life is like a flash of lightning, our lifespan. So, Prabhupada quotes this verse in the lecture that I quoted earlier, 17th April 1973 in Los Angeles. And Prabhupada says, the real danger is repetition of birth and death. You can think of any calamity, any way you can die, suffer, have inconvenience. The real calamity, Prabhupada says, the real danger is repetition of birth and death. And Prahlad Maharaj says this in the 7th canto. What are you afraid of? I'm afraid of sense gratification and take birth again and again. So that has to be stopped, Prabhupada says. Not these so-called dangers. The material world is full of dangers. Padam, padam, vipadam. He's quoting that verse. Then Prabhupada quotes the example of Titanic to explain how the world is full of dangers. So you're going there on your boat, you're cruising on the ocean, a so-called unsinkable ship, Titanic. It's made in such a way that certain sections will break off if one fills with water. If it's an iceberg, that one will sink and the other two will carry on floating. So what happened on the maiden voyage of the Titanic, they hit an iceberg which was this much iceberg was exposed above the water and this much was underneath, and the one that's underneath cut a hole in the hull, across the whole hull of that ship, and all compartments filled with water. And what was supposed to happen is that the filled up part of water will break off and sink and the others will stay, but all sank and dragged all those passengers to a watery death, a watery grave. Prabhupada says so many important figures in America died on that voyage. And Prabhupada says, so unpredictable. You designed the boat to be unsinkable, but on his maiden voyage itself it sunk. So at any time there can be danger. So we have to approach life with some sort of faith, which is explained in same Canto 10, chapter 14, verse 8. This is praised by Lord Brahma. Famous verse, you know this. Tatte nukampam susamikshamano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam ridvagvapurbi vidada namaste jivete yomukti pade sadaya bhag. My Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisance within his heart, with his heart, words and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Now Prabhupada didn't write the purport to this verse. This is written by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. But Prabhupada spoke on this verse in Nectar of Devotion under the topic expecting Krishna's mercy. And this is what Prabhupada says here in Nectar of Devotion. Prabhupada says that this verse is a devotee's only solace. Now solace means like comforting peace, like some good news to make you solace and peaceful. And amidst this incredibly unfavorable circumstance of this material world, the only solace we can have, Prabhupada says, is this verse. And in the purport, those disciples of Prabhupada say that why does Krishna put us through these difficulties, all these difficulties? Because you have some tinge of material desire in you, which Krishna wants to squeeze out. So once I wrote to my spiritual master about this and says, I'm going through this and this suffering, what do I do? Why is this happening to me? Because that's the first question that comes to your mind. If you're like young in Krishna consciousness and you're going through difficulty, the first thing you ask, why is this happening to me? But those disciples of Prabhupada in that purport say, Krishna is trying to remove the last tinges of material sense gratification desire from you. And my spiritual master wrote a letter to me and said that Krishna is trying to squeeze the Maya out of you. Now if somebody is squeezing you really tight, You're not going to enjoy it. It'll be uncomfortable. So, but you have to be squeezed to get the Maya out. It's there. So, what is this world? We explained earlier, we quoted Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, text 15. Dukkalayam ashashvatam. This is from Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, text 15. And it's a temporary world full of miseries. What do devotees do? They understand this world is temporary. It's not my goal to live here eternally until I'm old and whatever, and accumulate things, because the body is going to die anyway. So he makes some plan to perfect his existence. But what do less intelligent persons do? Here it says, less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust to those calamities without knowing that its nature is to be full of calamities. Everybody is trying to become happy and avoid danger. So, Prabhupada says in quite a few lectures, everyone has a fixed amount of happiness and a fixed amount of distress. You cannot increase your happiness and cannot decrease your distress. There's a set amount for you to experience in your life, and you need to go through that. And a devotee, Prabhupada describes as a sane person, not insane, but a sane person. He is undisturbed by worldly calamities, which are sure to happen, because suffering is unavoidable, and he should make progress in spiritual realization, because that is the mission of human life. So the next question is, how to be undisturbed? Every step you take is danger. Even if you try to be peaceful in your own home, your mind might disturb you, mosquitoes might disturb you, adibautik. So it's not possible to be free from disturbance. It's not possible to be free from disturbance. So you need to deal with that disturbance. So we look to Bhagavad Gita for an answer. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 specifically, and later on, but specifically in chapter 2, Arjuna is presenting so many arguments to Krishna. Chapter 1 actually towards the latter part, and a lot of chapter 2, Arjuna is giving so many excuses, speaking about destruction of the body, that the body will be destroyed. So Krishna counters that with the philosophy of jnana, right? And jnana means we are not this body, we are spirit soul. He starts that instruction in chapter 2, text 11, where he calls Arjuna a fool. You are speaking like a pandit, but you don't know the difference between a body and a soul. What kind of pandit you are? So Prabhupada explains in a lecture that Arjuna is feeling suffering because he is feeling grief. My teacher, my guru, my cousins, I have to kill them, they will die. And he is explaining to Krishna, this is why I am lamenting. But Krishna says, yes, it's obviously you have to feel grief, it's natural, you're living, your family members died. But Krishna advises, tolerate. Matra sparshas konteya shitoshna shukha dukada agama paino nitas tangstitikshvasha bharata. Chapter 2, text 14, Krishna says, just try to tolerate without being disturbed. Right? Now the spirit soul is transcendental to all these sufferings and calamities that's going on here. And Prabhupada explains it like a dream. Who remembers the analogy Prabhupada used of the dream? What did you see in the dream? Tiger, yes, a tiger eats you in a dream. Then you get up, you see, oh, my whole body is here, nothing is bitten, no missing legs and arms, so it's a dream, it's a nightmare. So Prabhupada says that these calamities are like a dream, and you shouldn't be bewildered by them. Then Prabhupada says, if one is lucky enough to come in contact with the Lord by devotional service, it is all gain. That luck is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 19, text 151. Brahmanda Brahmita Kona Bhagyavana Jeev Guru Krishna Prasada Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. One who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Lord Krishna. And by the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. So when you're in contact with that devotional process, your luck begins, your good fortune, your bhagyavan begins. Before that, you're wandering around. Here it says, Brahmita Konya, you're just wandering around in the Brahmita, lost. And Prabhupada goes on to say, contact with the Lord by any one of the 9 devotional services is always a forward step on the path going back to Godhead. And that's the end of the purport, but there's a few more things I want to discuss before we take some questions. 3 more points. First point. Prabhupada explains in the last comment that I made from a lecture that to tolerate inconveniences, calamities and danger is a tapasya. Right? But what tapasya is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, chant, dance, feast. What a tapasya. It must be difficult to do these things, right? Very difficult. Why is this temple room not full? Apart from pandemic and rest of these things, but why is this ISKCON campus and the whole of ISKCON community not overflowing? Because people are very unfortunate. They have no taste, they have no appreciation for this gift that they've been given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Huh? What does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Shri Shikshakashtam? Durdevam idrisham ya janinanuragaha. That I am so unfortunate that although knowing that your name is so great, Nam Nam Makari Bahudani Sarva Shaktis, all potencies, Sarva Shaktis is in the name, but I am so unfortunate I have no attraction to chant. So in the same way, the material world, secular world, they are being told sometimes by devotees, if devotees preach to them or they read a book if they're fortunate enough, that this material world is an unhappy place. Take to Krishna consciousness, chant Hare Krishna, but still they don't do it. Prabhupada says, you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna becomes immediately available. Just see the mercy of Krishna. So in Kali Yuga, Krishna has appeared as his name. Kali Kale Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar. Krishna has appeared as his holy name. Now, you may be thinking, devotees sing the good part of Krishna consciousness, the chanting, the dancing and the feasting, yay. But when it comes to calamities and dangers, he's averse. A devotee should not see like that. A devotee should be equipoised, shanta. Sorry, not shanta, sama. Shanta means peaceful. So, a devotee welcomes, Prabhupada said, a devotee welcomes a festival and calamitous situations because they are all different demonstrations of Krishna. A devotee thinks Krishna has appeared as this danger. And I don't know if you recall this one pastime, there's during World War I or II, they were dropping bombs somewhere. And Prabhupada says, if the bomb comes to me, I'll think this is Krishna. Krishna has come as the bomb. So this is how a devotee sees both a good situation and a bad situation. So the devotees of Chaupati, I'm not sure which one, says this: Krishna's lap and Krishna's slap are the same. You might be thinking, I lived with my mother for so many years. I sat on a lap, it's nice and soft. But that slap, ooh, I don't like that slap. I avoid that slap. But Krishna's lap and slap are not the same. They are equally merciful. And why does Krishna slap us? To wake us up. Jeev jago, we fast asleep on the lap of Maya. So Krishna needs to tapar marbo and then we wake up. Why do we need the lap? Lap of the father is your right, na? You can sit on father's lap. So Krishna is father. Ham bija pratapita. So that is your position. So Prabhupada says in a lecture in this regard, just like Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj and Nishingadev. Nishingadev is dangerous to Hiranyakashipu, but he is the supreme friend of Prahlad. The same personality. God is never dangerous to the devotee. Devotee is confident that the danger is another feature of God. So Kunti and Prahlad welcome the danger. If the devotee is put into a dangerous position and that dangerous position helps him to remember Krishna, he welcomes it. How is it welcome? Seeing Krishna means I am advancing in my spiritual life so that I will not have to suffer any more of these dangerous positions. So if you look at this today's verse, Queen Kunti is saying that I'm praying to you, send me more of these difficulties. In the previous verse that Rasamai Nityananda Prabhu spoke about yesterday, all the examples were given of so many dangers. The house of Shlak, the poison cake, something, all of these things. All of these examples of how the Kauravas contrived to murder the Pandavas. And Krishna protected them from all of this. But Kunti is saying, if you have difficulty in your life, normally I would say, please don't give me any more suffering is now. Bas. But not Kunti. Kunti is saying, send more. Because when the sufferings come, you are there to protect us. So with the intention of having you in my life all the time, I invite those calamities to my life. And when that happens, being with Krishna, you will no longer see repeated birth and death. Apunar bhava-darśanam. Puna bhava-darśanam means repeated birth and death you will see. Apunar bhava-darśanam. You will not see repeated birth and death anymore. You will be liberated. So the last point I'll make before we stop is about this current calamity, the current danger of COVID-19, coronavirus. So it is a test that has to be passed, either personally for yourself or somebody is afflicted by it. You're suffering with COVID here. All of us in this room are suffering with COVID. I have had family members who passed away. I have intimate friends who are suffering, my gurus who are suffering from it right now. And because they are suffering, I am suffering. It is an unimaginable test. We question Krishna. Why does this have to be? Why do good people have to suffer in this way? But this is all the lead of the Lord to show us how they will deal with the suffering position. And it has to be seen for what it is. It's a chance to remember Krishna. It is a calamity. It is a danger. A devotee who is advanced will welcome it. Right? But we are not in the position of Queen Kunti when you can pray for that. But if and so it happens, we accept it in the mood that Queen Kunti did. Not by imitating, we follow in the footsteps. Yes, right? So yesterday His Holiness Aryava Pritivardhan Maharaj, he said, not yesterday, on Sunday, in this time, this dangerous time, what do you do? So Maharaj gave some very practical advice. We should pray more to the Lord. Every day you should pray, no matter what. You pray daily. Chanting is actually a prayer for protection. But now you pray more. We should focus more on our japa. And we should be compassionate. Now how do you be compassionate? Maharaj says you preach Krishna consciousness. Imagine we are all sitting in this room, aspiring devotees of Krishna, and we are bewildered by COVID-19. We're bewildered. We do not know what to do. What's coming next? It's unpredictable. Things are mutating. It's unbelievably unbearable. We cannot tolerate it anymore. You agree with me? Say Haribol. I don't think you're convinced that you're unbearable. Now you imagine the position of those who are not inside Krishna consciousness. Your suffering is there. You understand what your suffering is. You have the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. You have the holy name. There are countless people in the Brahmita, in the Brahmanda, who don't know about Krishna. So we are duty bound to share Krishna consciousness with them. Maharaj was saying that devotee takes the risk to spread Krishna consciousness. Because by talking about Krishna, about spreading Krishna consciousness, you become most dear to Krishna. That's explained in 18th chapter. There's none more dear to him than a poet who explains this conversation to the devotees. Now, it does not mean taking unnecessary risks, putting yourself in a dangerous position. But risks should be there. And we rely on the Lord to safeguard us. With His name on our lips, we go forward. This is in essence of what Maharaj said yesterday, on Sunday, So in conclusion, I would like to say that we can follow Srila Prabhupada's advice, and he said that we should take the chanting of the holy name seriously. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We should know that these are opportunities to take shelter of Krishna and remember Him always. By chanting, hearing and remembering, we are with Krishna. As Srila Prabhupada says at the end of the purport, contact with the Lord by any one of these 9 devotional services is always a forward step on the path going back to Godhead. So lap or slap, a devotee doesn't really matter, doesn't really concern him. Long as he gets Krishna, that's his only goal in life. So we'll stop here. Any questions or comments on this?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for so many points in your class today. My question is, maybe somebody else can also help. You know, you quoted this word Kali Kale Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar. Seems kind of contradictory because I don't understand it maybe. What about other times? If Krishna is coming as Nama Rupa in Kali Yuga, so he says, you mentioned it as well. In Kali Yuga, he comes in the form of the name. So in other ages, you think it implies maybe by the statement you made that he's not present in a name?
Good question. Krishna is always present in the holy name in all yugas, but he is especially present in this age as the holy name. This is from Shastra, this verse, and not only did he come as the holy name, he came also as the, what should I say, distributor of the holy name, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda Prabhu. So while there's processes for other ages, one age there's temple worship, another is deity worship, another is meditation. In this age, the most suitable process is chanting the holy names of the Lord. It's recommended in the scripture also. So while the Hare and Krishna Maha Mantra and Nam Prabhu was present in other yugas, in this yuga specifically is the yuga dharma. Okay, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam kalo naste vanaste vanaste kalo, wait, handsome. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam kalo naste vanaste vanaste atar ganda. I lost the last part. Yeah. Okay, so you Prabhuji can speak. Any further questions? The devotee at the back. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a lecture. So,
can you hold the mic closer to your mouth?
Thank you for a lecture, Prabhuji. In the Prabhupada written that we have to take shelter in the case of calamities unto the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
We have to take shelter unto the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna in the case of calamity. So how do we identify that we are taking shelter? I mean, we are taking shelter, but how do we identify that we are taking shelter? We are under the grace of Krishna. We are getting the mercy of Krishna. While we are taking shelter, we normally get the mercy of Krishna. But how do we identify that we are in that situation, that we are under the shelter of Krishna? Or we can, in other words, we can rephrase it, how do we take shelter of Krishna?
Okay, good question. So as with the previous question and my reply, in this age of Kali, the process for recommended is chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So the prime way to take shelter of Krishna is by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's the prime means. So if you ask how to, it's by chanting Hare Krishna. Then at the end of the purport mentions that by engaging in any of these 9 limbs of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, etc., you are connected to Krishna and you'll be out of this mentality. You'll be not disturbed by calamities. One symptom to know by which you are having shelter of Krishna, maybe that's your question, is that you'll not be so moved and unsettled by the calamity. I'll give you an example. Prabhupada give this example. You know, in terms of seeing a beautiful woman. Prabhupada says a beautiful woman walks into this room. Is not like the devotee who is advanced does not see her, but he sees her for what she is, a nicely packaged form of Maya. That's it, bas. And for her, you are a nicely packaged Maya. But beyond that external, she is a spirit soul, he is a spirit soul, I am a spirit soul. But seeing things for what they are, you will not be disturbed by the externals. There's so many externals, duality. That's why Krishna says, matras prashas tu konteya. You tolerate those dualities. You see, as described in chapter 6, you see a stone, gold, and a pebble with the same eye. That's a self-realized person. And if you are equipoised, and if you are seeing things for what they are, then you will not be disturbed. You are a tattvadarshi at that stage. Does it make some sense? Thank you. Devotee at the back had a question.
Haribol. Sometimes we see for example, Shastra or devotee's life, sometimes more calamities come, like, I don't know, Prahlad Maharaj or Jesus even, or I don't know, some story, Bharat Maharaj, he start to meditate, but he become even dear. Look like Krishna little, or this Gajendra, Krishna little speeding up something purification, or what is your opinion? Like things become more.
Can you come here, please? Please. Microphone is hoigalo. Margachi. Leave it. You come here. Please tell me. I'll repeat in microphone. Sometimes things become more and more condensed. Like the example of Prahlad Maharaj, or Gajendra, or Bharat. It becomes an animal, a deer. Okay, so you're asking if those instances Krishna speeded it up. Okay, thank you. So Prabhu's question is, in the case of Prahlad Maharaj, Gajendra, who was the other one you mentioned? Bharat. It seemed that Krishna's intention to speed up the process of purification. Well, first of all, you must understand that those personalities that you mentioned are all devotees of the Lord. And Krishna deals with his devotees in a different way, and he deals with everybody else in a different way. And generally when Krishna wants to teach a lesson, he uses his devotee. Even when Krishna wants to fight, sporting fighting, he uses his devotee, like Jai and Vijay. They are devotees from the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha. But Krishna had them appear in different lifetimes, as in different births, so they can have the sporting feature of fighting. Right? With regards to the other devotees, it's not that Krishna speeds up their purification, but it's more like a lesson for us to learn from their lifetime and the example. Even Arjuna, his bewilderment is apparent bewilderment, because Arjuna is a pure devotee, he is self-realized. But he went through that, and Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, not so much only for Arjuna, but for all of us, following that example. And what's happening here is exactly what he's speaking about. In this verse, Kunti is praying for it to be speeded up. Because when those calamities come faster, you get purified faster. So that's what she wants. That's what she's asking for. She says, if I don't have calamities, you think about it. In your life, when you're sitting comfortably somewhere, in Hawaii, sipping a pina colada, or whatever pina colada, enjoying life in the sunshine, you're not going to think about Krishna. Krishna is going to be like the last thing in your mind, generally speaking. But if you're swimming in that ocean in Hawaii, and one big white shark comes for you, then you're going to think about Krishna very fast. You see, that's why danger is an impetus, calamity is an impetus to remember and think Krishna. Therefore, Queen Kunti is praying for that process to be speeded up. That's a good question. So, in the cases of those people, I don't think any of them, you mentioned Prahlad, Gajendra and Bharat, none of them prayed for that. But how they dealt with it, That's the entire class today, is how to deal with it. You accept it as a challenge, but you do not become overwhelmed. You tolerate it, do the tapasya of tolerance and chanting and remembering Krishna. Like Gajendra was saying praise to Krishna. Bharat was engaging in some form of devotional service, remembering his previous life as a king. And then Prahlad, well, he is the example of Smaranam. He remembered the Lord under all circumstances. To an extent that Prahlad was offered a bowl of prasadam poisoned. What's the first thing Prahlad do? Oh, Boga, let me offer it to Krishna. And then he ate it. This is what means Smaranam. So when I come, my own person, when I come before Prahlad downstairs in the old temple room, I pray, please help me remember the Lord like you did, constantly. If you're remembering the Lord part of the time and forgetting the Lord part of the time, that time that you're forgetting Krishna, you will suffer. But by suffering and tolerating the suffering and trying to remember Krishna and using that suffering as opportunities to remember Krishna, that speeds up the process. Otherwise, we just bewildered. Oh, you ask yourself, why am I suffering? But you must understand, even when you yourself probably are going through suffering, it's Krishna's mercy. It's not easy to think like that, because you straight away think, why is this happening to me? That's like your gut instinct, why me? I ain't that bad. Right? But actually you are. And Krishna wants to squeeze that maya out of you. Like I said before, as my Guru Maharaj said. Okay? I gave the example of Draupadi. Okay, good question. So I'll repeat the question. Prabhuji at the back is asking through Atma Tattva Prabhu that I gave the example of Draupadi, that she was trying to use her own strength, and then eventually she surrendered to Krishna by raising both her arms and saying, hey Govinda, hey Nath, and in this way Krishna supplied unlimited sari. So what does it mean that a devotee does this? It means that we may have these other things like good birth, beauty, aristocratic family, wealth, but we don't take shelter of those things, because those things are not real shelter. They durashraya. We take shelter exclusively of Krishna, Krishnaika Sharanam. And it's not like everybody is that advanced that Krishna is going to come directly and assist you like he did with Draupadi. Not everybody is that advanced, right? But he can help through many media. He can help through the spiritual master. He can help through the instructions in Shastra. He can help through Sadhu Sangha. So Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, that is the means, that's the media through which Krishna shows his mercy to you and helps you and gives you the help that you need. So I'll have to stop here because there's a prayer for His Grace Pankajanga Prabhu, His Holiness Bhakti Bringa Govinda Maharaj and other devotees downstairs. I will urge you all to keep His Grace Pankajanga Prabhu especially in your prayer today. Chant extra rounds, say some Nishinga Kavachas, pray very intensely because we love him and we're going to petition the Lord to help him. Okay? Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Patita Pavan Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
जय हरि ओम सहना भवतु